Club kids and goths. Trim the frayed ends from your galloons, add an additional gusset to your parachute pants, and you've got just 10 minutes till we go to the runway. Make it work.
It's time to work it, bitch. Let's talk Tull to me.
Welcome back. I am Omen Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are Feckless Momes.
And this is Talk Tull to Me,
An all-star fashion show on the glittering catwalk of prog rock, in which Nick Nip and Tuck McGill and Omen Organza Sade will throw our discerning eye over every perfectly tailored song ever-evolving rock band Jethro Tull has ever released, and we will decide if they are in or out. Yes, with our infinity scarves wrapped haphazardly around our necks, we will put a flower in Martin Buttonhole Bar, let out the seams of David Princess Line Peg, and dust off the espadrilles of Eddie Embroidery Jobs, and with any luck, we will capture the eye of flute fashion tastemaster himself, Ian Armani Anderson.
Way back in the triptych, did you say galloon?
A galloon, yes.
Galloon? What is a galloon?
A galloon is it's an embellishment that is made from a piece of cord or rope. It's like piping that goes on a garment that takes the form of a like a rope.
Interesting.
Yeah. Nick, hello.
Hello, Omen. How are you?
I'm excited because I love fashion.
Fashion.
As you know.
Uh-huh.
And as some of our listeners may know. And I have an excuse to talk about it a little bit with this episode.
That's right. I think we will talk about it. I think we'll talk about it plenty, actually.
Yeah.
And we've got nothing else, so let's dive right into the fashion of this album in particular. Shall we?
Let us do indeed.
So this is the album. This is that very special album where everybody wore Tyvek jumpsuits on tour.
Yes.
Those like papery, plasticky jumpsuits. And everybody wore different colors. Originally, they were going to be wearing all white. But Eddie Jobson is like, no, I'm a special guest. I want to wear purple.
Oh my God.
So then when they said, okay, well, we can't have everybody white and have Eddie be purple. Let's have everybody have their own colors. So Ian was in white, Martin was in red, Dave was in green, Mark was in blue, and Eddie was in purple.
Makes a lot of sense, actually, because if you have everyone in white, it can kind of wash out, especially with the lights.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So they acquiesced to Eddie's demands there, and everybody was, you've been under stage lights.
Sure.
You've run around under stage lights.
Oh, yes.
You've played instruments under stage lights, I assume. It gets hot. It gets hot.
Yeah.
And you get sweaty.
The funny thing is that Tyvek was invented by the DuPont company in 1955 as a thin insulation. It's used commonly in for wrapping houses to keep the weather out.
It keeps out water and air.
Yeah, so it's exactly the kind of thing that you want to put on if you plan on sweating to death in a concert.
For two hours, yeah. So the big problem with Ian's in particular, the white one, is it became transparent when it got soaked.
Oh, interesting.
He said he sweated like a pig under the lights. Now, to branch out from the fashion of the tour and to talk a little bit about the tour itself, the audience did not like Eddie in the live shows.
Interesting.
Because it felt like he was competing with Ian in terms of showmanship.
Well, and actually that's something that Ian, I think at some point we read a little quote that Ian sort of had the realization that like, oop, I better be careful.
Yeah, that's why he pulled Martin back in. He's like, we need a guitar in this band. Otherwise, it's going to be the flute guy and the violin guy, and we're going to go head to head.
Right. Like the mockumentary Spinal Tap. They've got 2 lead singers.
Oh, yes, yeah. So Eddie set himself apart right from the very beginning. He showered and put on makeup every night. He always had his own dressing room. And like it was mentioned in the notes that I think it was in one of the magazines that I have, he showered and put makeup on every night. That is remarkable because obviously the other band members didn't. They kind of life on the road, you know. He even had his own foot switch to activate a spotlight for his solos.
For himself.
For himself.
No one should be given that amount of power.
No, exactly. And finally, not only did the audience not terribly like Eddie, the crew didn't like Eddie either.
Really?
On the last gig of the tour, this happened on the last gig of the tour. So Eddie had 2 keyboards, like back to back, so he could stand at one and then pivot and then play at the other one, so he could get the 2 sounds or whatever.
Yeah.
The last night of the tour, they set them just far enough apart that he could not play them like one hand on each. He could not reach them both.
That's so funny.
That's very mean. It's very cruel.
And, you know, Jobson has an incredible pedigree as a musician. He played with the Frank Zappa band for a couple of years in the...
Oh, sure, yeah.
In the 70s. He won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Progressive Music Awards in 2017. And he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Holy cow. He got in before Tull. Well done.
Well, he got in 2019.
Still before Tull.
There you go. And if you look at pictures of the man, you can tell that he's a very poised, dramatic figure. I can imagine, you know, he looks very put together.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit off of what Ian's aesthetic had traditionally been at the time.
Right. Yeah, very, very sharp features, very, very piercing stare, especially those older images of him. He's got a very, very angular face that really kind of makes it very intense.
He has, as the drag queens say, cheekbones for days.
Yes. He has more than enough cheekbones than anyone needs. And finally, this tour is the tour that was recorded for the Slipstream video. So it was a live tour video that was released on VHS, I believe it looks like.
Interesting.
In 81. Yep. So it was I think it was probably one of their first tour videos, but it also had music videos for Dun Ring Gill, Filingdale Flyer, Sweet Dream, Too Old to Rock and Roll as well.
Fascinating.
Yeah, really cool. I'm sure a lot of our Tull Skulls have already seen that video, but that is actually something I'm going to look into myself. I'm going to look into myself for it.
Please do. I hope that you just sanitize your endoscope both before and after. Now, Nick, speaking of looking into things, what is the song about which we are talking Tull about? What is the song about which we are talking Tull this week?
So I was basing that talk about the costumes on the loose premise that the song is Uniform. Because they were wearing uniforms, you know, bit of a segue, a little bit, a hint of a segue. So we are talking Uniform today. This is song number 7 off of A. It is the 3rd track off of side B. So we are just at the halfway point. Let's see, this was recorded on June 1st in 1980 at the Maison Rouge studio. Take 5 was our master here.
Seems to be a common theme, the 5th take.
Yeah, they're getting up into the 5s usually. Let's see, a comment from Ian. It's about uniforms in the broadest sense. Okay then, thanks. Thank you for that contribution, Ian.
Let's have a listen.
Unicorn.
Nick McGill.
Omen Sade.
Have you ever worn a uniform of any type?
I mean, I was in a lot of shows. I wore, like, uniforms for shows.
You mean costumes?
Yeah, but it was of a uniform.
Okay. What was your favorite?
Like, my favorite uniform?
Yeah.
I mean, the one that I wore as Lepidus, the unknown third of the triumvirate in Julius Caesar. That was pretty good. It had epaulets, and it was a nice military uniform. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's about it.
Good talk.
Yeah.
I think the only real-world uniform that I've ever worn was in marching band in high school.
Oh, snap. Where you played the tambourine, right?
I did play the tambourine. I had one on each of my butt cheeks, and I would clap them together.
You clenched it with every step.
Yeah. No, I actually played the flute.
That's right.
I hated that uniform because it was awful. Because our school was very poor, and so they didn't have a very good-looking uniform.
Yeah, that is a justifiable reason to hate a uniform.
Yeah.
I would say.
Nick,
man.
Is this a song, enjoyment of which you have?
I know I said last week that batteries not included, uniform, and four-wheel drive, all they make this triptych of songs that I don't like the content about, so I don't really like the songs.
Sure.
But really listening to this song and reading along with the lyrics and really listening to the music, this song is redeemed in my eyes. I dig the hell out of this song, actually.
Really?
It's a lot of fun, yeah. I do really like this song.
That is surprising to me. I did not expect that. What redeems it for you? Where do you kind of get a tickle from this song?
The poetry, we see a really nice touch of Ian's poetry here, which I don't think I don't want to say we haven't seen it in a while, but I feel like he really hit something here with the lyrics on this. I really like the imagery that he's giving us here. Got a lot of colors, got a lot of really beefy sentences to evoke in the mind. And also, yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, Eddie Jobson's violin really nails it home for me. I love that sound.
He's not a bad violinist. He's really Jobsoning all over the place.
And there's something, I think it falls similar in the regards of synthesizer in general. It's not a real piano. It's not real music.
Sure.
There's you can't not notice that it's an electric violin, but there's something. And I love me some violin and fiddle. I really do.
Yeah.
But there's something so unique about that electric violin sound. It's so clean. It's so crisp. It's so it doesn't evoke the same passion that I get from hearing someone really go to town on a fiddle, but I don't know, there's something there about it that I really do enjoy.
Well, it's worth noting that he wasn't just playing any violin. His electric violins were custom made for him. So he had obviously, and he strikes me as a gentleman who has very specific desires.
Oh, I mean, purple Tyvek jumpsuit included. Yeah,
it will be purple.
Yeah,
so that I may go out into the purple rain.
I am not a part of Jethro Tull.
I'm a special guest.
I'm a big boy.
But no doubt it was something that he really worked on to get that sound.
Yeah.
I have a little excerpt here from the book A Passion Play, the story of Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull by Brian Raby.
Yeah.
Out of which I have read at various points. On the topic of his position in the band, the author corresponded with him through emails.
Oh, yes. Yep. We heard that
and
once.
And asked him, where did he see himself in terms of the history of the band? Jobson replied, a small footnote. A special guest performer brought in to offer a different character for a brief period.
I think it would have been, not that it's terribly remarkable, but I think it would have been less remarkable if this had maintained its course as a solo album, right? Because then you wouldn't have to say special guest of Jethro Tull. Then it would just be Ian Anderson and his collective group of musicians that just so happened to have Eddie Jobson.
That was basically the deal, when they did transition from being a solo album to being a Jethro Tull album. That was partly where the special guest billing came about.
Yeah.
He goes on, after the album was finished, I returned to the U.S., but it was so difficult for them to tour with the material without my participation. So I agreed to do the one tour with them, provided again I received special guest billing throughout.
Oh my god.
It turned out to be the most enjoyable tour I've ever done.
Oh, hey. That's nice.
Afterwards, as planned, I returned to my solo projects.
I was so badass, they couldn't possibly replicate it. I had to come back.
They begged me. They told me my Tyvek jumpsuit could be any color of the rainbow. Nick, well, let's dive into the music.
Sure, yeah.
Obviously, this is a violin-heavy song. We start out right with it.
Yep. It's also a bass-heavy song.
Oh, so bass-heavy.
Peggy is knocking it out with the bass. It's super funky.
In my notes, I described the bass as swelly.
Yeah, it is chunky. It's like
serpentine.
It's swollen with juices.
Turgid.
It's turgid. There's also like it's not tuberous.
Tuberous?
No, it's not tumult. No, I can't.
Mashed.
Mashed.
Deep fried.
Bangers and mash. Yeah, it's succulent. This bass.
Oh, okay.
Is.
Succulent.
Yeah.
It has, so on a technical level, if we throw our minds back to the bass stylings of Jeffrey Hammond, there is a distinct note. Everything is fairly staccato. You know,
sure,
you hear the notes individually. Even when Ian plays the bass, it's pretty like dum 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 dum. If you think about Living in the Past and that classic bass line, dum 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 dum, each of the notes is distinct. Whereas David Pegg is sliding his hands and his fingers all over the neck of the bass,
wherever they should be,
and bending and sliding those notes from tone to tone, so you get that wow sound.
Yeah.
It's a really different take on the bass. It's a different approach to the instrument.
Even John Glasscock's attack on the bass was not that turgid. You know, it was
more powerful, and he did a lot of very fast melodic runs, but they didn't have that kind of slide to them.
The connected notes, yeah. It wasn't clean per se, but it certainly wasn't this all one piece. It wasn't all of the same. Basically, you never stop touching the bass. Dave Pegg never stopped touching the bass.
He plays it like it's a trombone.
Yes, he's tromboning it all night long.
Yes.
So the violin in here, this is clearly supposed to be the flute, right? Like if Eddie Jobson weren't here, this would be a flute. This would be the flute part.
I guess so, or I guess you could try to do some of it on the piano.
Yeah.
I also think that, for the album, this is the violin spot.
Right. If you, I don't know, this is like the one and only like really super violin song off the off the album. So is this like Ian said, oh yeah, let's give Eddie one, maybe?
I think it's, I think that if you bring in Eddie Jobson, you're going to want to showcase his mad violin skills at some point.
Right. Yeah, why wouldn't you? Yeah, okay.
So this is a moment in which they can really showcase his incredible skill on the violin. Was the song written to do that? Or was this a song that had the space for that kind of attack to it? Who knows?
Right. And lest we forget that Ian Anderson is there with his flute, he comes in halfway through Eddie's solo just to remind everybody.
However, even with that, it's really, I think, demonstrative of their relationship as musicians, and perhaps why Ian was a little nervous about getting overtaken. Because
I get it, yeah.
Whereas when Ian and Martin do a solo together or a duo together, you hear flute, 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 guitar, guitar, fluty, flute, 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 guitar, 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 flute, flute, guitar. They really have this effortless and very complicit sense of when to switch off one to the other. With this, Eddie Jobson just starts going with the violin, and he does not stop for flute or high water.
Yeah. Yeah, and even when Ian does come in, they don't meld. they work. They're going in the same direction.
Yes.
But there's no real harmony there. It doesn't sound bad.
No, but it is parallel tracks with the two instruments sort of ignoring each other, it seems.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. That being said, I think I realized why one of the things that I like so much about the electric violin, and it may be just this sound specifically with electric violin, is there's a level of haunting to it.
Oh, sure.
There's like just probably just a hair of echo on there or something that makes it just feels like it's a single man in this huge echo chamber,
yes.
like playing the heck out of this violin. And there's something about that sound, particularly this sound in this song, that really, I'm digging the heck out of Eddie Jobson. I might have to look up some of his other stuff.
Well, let's talk about some of his other stuff.
Yeah.
So Eddie Jobson started his musical career, at least his recording career, in 1973. He was with a band called Curved Air.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is a band that released an album called Air Cut in 1973. They released another album in 1990 called Love Child.
Oh, wow.
Which was apparently recorded in 73.
Oh, not unheard of. I mean, we saw Dee do that with
Tallis.
With Tallis, yep.
He was with Roxy Music for several years.
Okay.
He has a handful of solo albums. He has Yesterday's Boulevard and the Green Album, Theme of Secrets.
The Green Album is what he was recording, or what he was working on when he got pulled into A, if I remember correctly.
Yes, because it was released a couple years later in 83.
Yeah.
He also played with Frank Zappa, and of course he played with Jethro Tull.
Now, is that the Green Album from Weezer that released when we were in high school, or is that a different album?
It is not the Weezer album.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear.
No, it is an album with titles such as Transporter, Resident, Easy for You to Say, Nostalgia, Green Face, etc.
Got to be careful doing green face nowadays. Cancel culture will just shut you right down.
That's right. As we know, obviously, he's a multi-instrumentalist, and I think that's part of the reason that Ian wanted to work with him. Also, we know that Ian was a big Frank Zappa fan, and so there's probably a little bit of wanting to capture that magic.
Yeah, not necessarily fanboy, but I'm sure Eddie contributed something to the Frank Zappa, so he wanted to pull that in.
Less fanboy and more admirer man.
Appreciative gentleman.
Yes. Speaking of Jobson, speaking about his contributions to Tull, says, with Tull, I primarily used a Yamaha CS80 synth, a Mini Moog, and a Yamaha CP70 piano, as well as my custom electric violins.
Like, don't forget it. Purple jumpsuit, custom electric violins. Got it. They called me Mini Moog in high school.
They did. I remember that. Although, I understand why the futuristic approach didn't sit too well with everyone. Even I prefer the old England folksy style that typifies the Tull we all know and love.
Huh.
However, the A album and tour were meant to be different and serve as a colorful departure in the long view.
Yeah, the more of these snippets that I hear, the more I think, why wasn't this a solo album? But we know why it wasn't a solo album, and we know that the era ended and they needed to move on. And like the episode that just dropped today, Crossfire, so it was the start of A, was the episode that dropped today. We talk about if this had been a solo album, would Tull have continued? Like,
well, I do think that was what Chris Ellis was worried about.
Yeah, Terry Ellis.
Just to button up a final little thing from Mr. Jobson regarding his time with Tull, he says, my participation in the Tull chronology, as important as it was to me, doesn't warrant too much space.
Sure. I mean, what do you say to that when you've got Frank Zappa on your resume, you've got Curved Air, you've got Roxy Music, and you've got a slew of solo albums?
I think that what he means is doesn't warrant too much space in the book about Jethro Tull.
He's
saying,
himself.
Listen, I just dipped in for this one little moment.
Humility. Okay.
Yes, humility.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's notable. I think it certainly warrants at least a footnote, if not a paragraph.
With cheekbones like that, you can afford to be humid. Humal?
You have to be.
What's
humid.
the word I'm looking for, Nick?
Humble?
Oh, thank you. English is a slippery little language, isn't it?
Humid and hummel. Lovely.
Anything else to add about music from your brain?
I can't pinpoint it. I couldn't tell you where it happens in the song, but I know on at least 2 or 3 occasions there's a second voice in the back.
Like a shouting voice.
No. I was going to comment on that after, but there's like a squeaky high-pitched harmony going on in the back. I don't know if it's Dave Pegg or if it's Ian really pushing himself. I don't know who it is.
Or maybe it's some air leaking out of one of their suits.
It might. They've sprung a leak, but there is in just a couple of instances, and I've never heard it before, so it's very pulled back. But there's some attempt at harmony, and I don't think it's consistent when it happens either. But also, I want to talk about the yelling that you said. I think it's right before Eddie goes to town on the solo. I think it's Ian yelling, "Go, Eddie, go."
Is it?
I think so.
I thought it was him shouting, "Uniform!"
Oh, it might have been. I don't know. I want to think that it was "Go, Eddie, go."
I'll take it. I'm happy either way.
I'll try to find it and drop it in here. Hopefully.
And our listeners can be the judges.
Yes. You tell us. Sound off in the comments. There are no comments. Let us know. Send in carrier pigeon. Just write "Go, Eddie, go." And I just send those in,
and then
please.
say that to your carrier pigeon, who also happens to be named Eddie.
Eddie, conveniently enough.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into lyrics here.
Nick, you noted the references to color in this song, and I think that's really a great observation. I often find that whenever we have that sometimes in these lyrics, color is a really great entryway.
Yeah.
If you think of songs like, is it Salamander, where we have, or no, Strip Cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Where we had the whole discussion about all of the colors referenced in the songs are mostly these kind of shades, these shades of gray, and then you have like one color literally cutting through. Really,
a pop
is
of
poetic.
red, I think. Yeah.
Here we have black, yellow, gray, silver, white, golden,
green
down
at the bottom. Yep.
And then back to white at the end.
Yeah, and it's all it's what we wear, you know. People are colorful creatures, even if they are in uniform.
Well, and colors each have a symbolic and sociological purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
I think in terms of the referencing of colors, this is the most CPV. This is the highest rate of CPV that we have in maybe any Tull song. Colors.
I don't know.
Colors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Actually, when I mentioned colors, I didn't even realize how many there were. But yeah, this is the CPV value on here is probably it's one full uniform of CPV.
Yes, that's right.
And then we'll break it down accordingly. So I mean, you want to jump in and go step by step here? Anything jump out at you?
It's a peculiar song for Ian in the sense that it's less a narrative and it's more a series of snapshots.
Yes. Yeah. It's not super rare, but it feels it's one of those where it feels like this might have been Ian describing what he sees.
Yeah,
this is one of those feelings. And maybe he saw like one or two instances that we see here, and then it kind of snowballed the idea.
Well, and in the rock and roll world, fashion has always been really important.
Sure.
And I think that
Yeah.
at this point, there was maybe a transition to artists being a lot more conscious of what they were wearing on stage and really making that, really getting into the fashion of it. Whereas, with Tull, it always had what people were wearing was almost more costume.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody had their own thing, Ian and his carpet coat, and Bowler and Jeffrey Hammond in his
the stripe.
Was it
the
polka
stripe?
dot? The stripes, black and white stripes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The ice cream suit of John Evan.
Yeah. Wait, no, John Evan had the black and white, didn't he?
No. That was Jeffrey Hammond.
That was Jeffrey.
It matched
okay.
his base.
Oh yes, yeah. And Martin kind of just like old man chic,
right?
Or just old man, not even chic, I think.
Well, and then there's the whole bunny costume.
Well, sure, yeah.
It's very costumey.
Yeah, and that those before they kind of fell into those archetypes, they did have more costumes, like Too Old to Rock and Roll and Passion Play. They fit into these overarching narratives that they're of the stories they're telling in concert.
And even the Tyvek suits, those are typically worn by workmen, or
right.
They're functional. It's almost a rejection of fashion.
Yeah, right. I think that's a great point. I think before we forget to mention that uniforms are meant to make people lose their personality in a sense. You
lose their individuality, become a singular unit.
Their individuality, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, to varying degrees, but that's ultimately what a uniform is.
That's right. So that when they have a military origin, so that when you face off against your enemy, you see, oh my God, they're so organized. They're like a single unstoppable force.
Yeah.
Whereas, now in the 80s, you're starting to get fashion designers realizing, oh my gosh, these artists can be an incredible platform for my designs. And so you have people like Gucci designing bespoke, one-of-a-kind outfits for people like Madonna or Prince or David Bowie.
Yeah, I was going to say Prince, Bowie, Madonna, very good. Everybody who's so theatrical in their presentation, they are a palette for these designers, and design really started to boom in the 80s with all of this stuff.
And there's an intersection between fashion and rock and roll. And I think that Ian probably feels quite uncomfortable with all of that. Or is just disinterested.
Which is why when he made the bold fashion choice, it was basically a sleeping bag. It was a garbage bag with arms and legs.
Well, just his personality. Can you imagine Gucci being like, yes, Mr. Ian, we've designed you this custom suit.
Yeah, as long as I can wear it under my trench coat and bowler hat, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have this description of different types of clothing and in a way how they communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I love the line of silver streaks and t-shirts so precisely torn.
Silver streaks and t-shirts so precisely torn.
Yeah, precisely torn. Yeah, like you can buy jeans that are fashionably ripped already.
Distressed, we say, yes.
Yeah, distressed. I'm sorry, distressed.
Right,
yeah.
and that's more expensive than buying a pair of jeans that doesn't have any holes in it.
And then just fucking wearing them. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
I love the reference of strange foreign chaps in white bed sheets.
Strange foreign chaps in white bed sheets.
I was going to ask you about that. Is that a KKK reference?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a reference to the Arab and specifically the Saudi robe
okay.
called a thawb.
Oh, interesting.
Or also in various dialects called a tobe or thub.
Yes, okay. I think I've heard tobe before, yeah.
But it's that white garment, and then you have the white headdress with a little circly bit around the top.
Yep. Okay, yeah. Okay, then the next set, this verse is my favorite, I think, here. See golden haloed men of high renown prance to the politician's beat, well-tailored in unswerving elegance with shoes by Gucci on their feet.
See golden haloed men of high renown prance to the politician's beat, well-tailored in unswerving elegance with shoes by Gucci on their
Another like religious Catholic churchy, well, not necessarily Catholic, another churchy reference here of men who should be humble, wearing rags, doing God's work, are prancing to the politicians' beat. So they're serving what the politicians ask them to do, and they're wearing friggin' Gucci on their feet.
See, this is a really interesting thing that you picked up that I never did. The golden haloed men. I never connected that to religion, but that makes so much sense.
But to me, it feels a little interesting. I feel like it's the opposite here in the States. I feel like it's the politicians who dance to the golden haloed men. You know, it's the Republicans who bow to the people in power in the Catholic Church, you know, because that's their constituency.
I think that the sword cuts both ways.
It certainly does, yeah.
I think the seam is on both sides.
It is. And it's a fashion choice. So it's okay. So it's excusable. It's
double seamed. Nick, one of the things that I love about this verse, the thing that I got from it was well tailored in unswerving elegance with shoes by Gucci on their feet.
Huh.
I was thinking of that more in terms of the politicians and how modern menswear, specifically the suit, has become, in a sense, a uniform.
Sure, it's the political uniform,
and the business uniform.
Oh, right, yeah, absolutely.
If you go downtown in the financial district in New York City around lunchtime, and you see all the people coming out of the offices to go get lunch, I mean, it does look like an army, and they're and it's interesting because the reason I love the modern suit so much is because it does have that sense of uniformity, but then it's all the subtle details which is how you express your individuality.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about wearing a really nice, well-fitting suit.
There's nothing like it.
Like, I'm not being facetious here. Like, boy, howdy.
No, it's
like there is something about it. Yeah,
there's no other feeling in the world.
Yeah, I don't think I'd like to do it every day.
No,
but when I do pop on a suit, oh mercy,
if it fits.
If it fits, right, yeah.
And the modern suit, as we know, was invented by Beau Brummel, a English man of fashion. He had enough nobility to get an income and enough free time to squander it.
Sure, right.
So he had a very good time.
He made clothes, basically, or he designed clothes?
He invented a style of dress. So at the time, it was still waistcoats and wigs and all this frilly lace and everything, and he paired it way back. He kind of took inspiration from the military. He put on he had this really, really tight-fitting pants that he actually needed help getting into.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then he had designed for him this sleek black jacket that has that modern silhouette that we think of. And then he just went around London insulting people for their fashions, and that was it. That was his thing.
Did you say when this was? What is this, Victorian?
He was roughly, yeah. He was born in 1778 and died in 1840. So, yeah.
From several gunshot wounds of people he offended.
Yes. So apparently there was an incident that started the downfall of Brummel's career, in which he was at a party with the ascendant king, who was a little rotund and was very conscious of his weight, and when they knew each other, but at a certain point somebody was going to introduce them formally, and Brummel turned to his friend and said, "Alviny, who is your fat friend?" which was his style. He was this cutting, really bitchy dude,
even to the king.
Well, and that's when it went down, started to go downhill for him. Anyway, we digress, Nick.
So just if anyone's interested, Beau Brummel, Beau Brummell. What a character.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a character. Yes, digression, we have done it. That was actually more relevant than most digressions we do. So we get into our kind of a chorus. I guess I would call it a bridge. It's not a chorus, yeah. How do you know who the hell you are? Wake up each day under a different star. Dressed to the nines, meet yourself going home like a clone. Smartly dressed in your pressed uniform.
I love
uniform.
How do you know who the hell you are? Wake up each
I love meet yourself going home.
Yeah, like a clone.
That clothes are so similar that you might see someone dressed exactly like
Yeah.
you.
So how do you know who the hell you are? Is that because you dress the same way as everybody else every single day? How do you know what your person is, your personality? Or is it, how do you know who you are? Oh, this is who you are. You put on the milkman suit.
Interesting. I think it works both ways. I think
It does. It really does.
In a way, it is an observation that the clothes maketh the man, as they say.
They do say that, yeah.
Or as RuPaul says, we're all born naked and the rest is drag.
Sure. I think Beau Brummel said that originally.
Beau Brummel was the RuPaul of his time.
Of the 1800s, yeah. Beau Brummel may actually be a Highlander and has now taken on the personage of
It's possible.
RuPaul. It's possible.
Or it could be, I've lost the train of thought, but yes, I think it is. I think it's an observation and a caution that, the clothes inform other people who you are. They subconsciously or overtly affect the way that we act ourselves.
Sure.
And it's possible to lose yourself in them. And I think that
Right.
Ian would be very critical of people, especially other artists, who were all faff and no substance, who would come on stage and dressed gorgeously and have no content.
I'm thinking of
the Backstreet Boys. I'm thinking of NSYNC.
I'm thinking Rolling Stones.
Why not?
Yeah. Why not, I say.
Definitely fashion conscious.
Very fashionable, very that's Mick Jagger is a facade,
A beautiful facade.
Oh, he's a bony facade now, but he was a beautiful
Clothes
facade.
just hang off him.
And then we get into the final verse. White battle dress on a green pitch, proud 11, beneath the swelling box so neat.
White battle dress on green pitch, proud 11. Beneath the swelling box so neat.
That is a cricket reference.
It sure is, yeah.
The teeming millions of the future fly, the spinning cricket ball to cheat, they're all uniform.
The teeming millions of the future fly. The spinning cricket ball to cheat. They're all uniform.
I also have a little insight into that from Ian.
Oh, please.
So beneath the swelling box so neat, the teeming millions of the future fly. His response to that is, that's a good sperm count. So yeah.
Wait.
Beneath the swelling box so neat, the teeming millions of the future fly. That is a reference to copulation.
Wow.
Yeah. And finally, they're all uniform is, he says, is the human race. We are all human.
We're all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Interesting that he can go. This is why we love Ian. He can go from a description of a cricket pitch as a battlefield to a sperm explosion without taking a breath.
The ejaculatory celebration that is cricket.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, the most exciting of all sports.
The only game that lasts 3 weeks straight.
Much like Sting's ejaculation.
That's it, yeah.
So, worth noting that bands that were coming to prominence at this exact time, not quite, some of them are, a year or so later, but Motley Crue, Bon Jovi,
Okay.
Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Stripper with a Y.
Look, that sounds like a hair metal band to me.
Yep. Scorpions. They were even earlier.
Rat with 2 T's.
White Snake.
Yep.
Kiss. All of these. You could accuse any of those bands of being, Aerosmith. You couldn't accuse them all of being Aerosmith.
That is a fact. You could not. I could think of one of them you could accuse, though. It's Scorpions. Yeah, it's that 80s hair metal pageantry.
Which, frankly,
you know?
I love.
I know you do love that. You do love that.
I love it.
There's a certain level of nostalgia that I feel, because my older brother used to play the hell out of all of those.
Sure.
That was their uniform, you know. If you wanted to be 80s hair metal, it's called hair metal for a reason. They had these great big teased out hairs, probably weren't wearing shirts, wearing tight jeans or leather pants.
Eyeliners for, all day.
Eyeliner for days, maybe a scarf,
Maybe.
A tasteful scarf.
Yeah. And, Nick, this kind of gets into, and this is relevant to the song. I read a description of, what does the word fashion mean? And it used to mean what is fashionable. The fashion has changed, and so now we will wear this instead of this. But that was a much older concept. Like whole societies would dress in a certain way. Whole cultures would dress in a certain way. The kilt is representative of it is the Scottish fashion because it is representative of that culture. But in the last century, that's fragmented, and we get now what some people call fashion tribes. You get the punk kids, you get the goth, you get the emo kids, you get the other, the hair bands. That's an
the
example
jocks,
of
the preps,
the preps, the stoners. You can identify someone from miles off by what fashion tribe they belong to, and with that, along with that goes a lot of information. I think that a lot of this is a rejection of that for Ian.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it was just starting around this era of maybe seeing those tribes kind of
cementing themselves in a way.
Coheeding and coalescing because you have a visual medium really coming into prominence.
Oh, sure, that's a great point. Yeah. Now it's on TV, and so what perhaps at one point, like the mods and the greasers, was sort of a local thing, at least in terms of England.
Yeah.
Now, if someone wears something fantastic, people across the world are going to want to wear it.
Right. People want to be like the Fonz. They see him on happy days. You see those clumps of people wearing leather jackets and jeans and a white T-shirt.
Nick, I want you to describe to me, item by item, what you are wearing right now. What is the fashion that you're wearing at this moment?
It's upstate comfort is what it's called.
Tell me what it is.
I'm wearing a great big baggy rainbow tie-dye sweatshirt that says Finger Lakes on it.
Yes.
It's very comfortable.
Yes.
A T-shirt. What T-shirt is this? Oh, it's an Upstate Coffee Company T-shirt.
Perfect.
Called Crow City Coffee.
Yeah.
Crow City Roasters. A pair of jeans with holes in the knees.
Did you buy them with the holes?
No, they were work pants, so they're naturally occurring holes. And slippers.
Amazing.
Socks and slippers. That's upstate comfort, my friends.
And you look great.
I feel great.
There. Well, that's one of the things that's important.
That is one of the more important things, yeah. Yeah. Omen, if this song was a fashion trend, what would it be?
Wow. It'd be something really almost nihilistic. I feel like it'd be like, oh man, it's interesting because it describes so many things.
Right. But what does the sound of it evoke to you?
I'm getting very knit vibes. I'm getting a lot of like,
oh, interesting.
Like maybe very dark, muted, like black, but the silhouette's really great. Like maybe there's kind of a cape, maybe there's a really huge, like an oversized scarf. But everything is very textured, like woven materials.
Slightly emo cottagecore?
Yes, exactly. Like, yes, that's it. Like monochromatic New York City, really sharp angles, but everything is like hand-dyed wool.
But very, very sleek and chic and sexy.
Sexy
at
wool.
The same time. Yeah. Yeah. Ba ba, baby.
Ba ba.
Next week, Omen Sade, I don't need to ask you what song we are covering next week.
Next week, we are covering one of my all-time favorite Jethro Tull songs.
I'm just shaking my head right now. In this silence, just my head shaking.
Four-wheel drive, low stereo. Sorry.
Low stereo?
Four-wheel drive, low ratio.
That's right. Four-wheel drive next week. In the meantime, you can give us 5 little yellow lines in the shape of a star.
You know, Nick, Coco Chanel always said, when you leave your house, take off 1 accessory.
That's right.
You can take off 5 accessories. You can take off 5 of those glamorous, glitzy stars that are maybe overburdening your silhouette.
Sure.
And you know what? Give them to us. We'll keep them in our star closet.
The word star is in this song. I can't believe we missed that. We want to wake up each day under 5 different stars.
That's right.
From you. Thank you so much.
You may not be able to afford a 1979 original Gianni Versace suit.
Probably not.
But you can afford membership in a very exclusive fashion club, our Patreon.
That's right.
And you can wear whatever you want when you participate in conversations.
You can be completely nude. We very rarely have any on-camera conversations.
That's right. Or you can be head to toe in Karl Lagerfeld.
I've been there before. He's very comfortable. Until next week, I am dressed. I'm not dressed to the 9s. I'm dressed to the 3s. Nick McGill.
I'm the strange foreign chap in your bedsheets, home and Sade.
We are beneath the swelling box so neat, the feckless momes.
And this is the spinning cricket ball, Talk Tull to Me.
Welcome back, everyone, to a very special edition of Project Runway. I'm Heidi Klum. This, as you know, is Tim Gunn.
Hello, everyone. We're so happy to be here backstage with English rock band Jethro Tull, and we're just coming to do a little fashion consulting.
It's time that we take a look at what they're wearing before they go out on stage, and we will we'll give them some tips.
Martin Barr, I'm so pleased to finally meet you. Heidi, wow, you know, what are we looking at here? Is this a bustier?
I think it's supposed to be a bustier, but it's not boosting anything. Martin, it needs to be tighter. It needs to lift.
It's very Ralph Lauren if he had gone into industrial boiler making.
Remember, Martin, it's all about the posture and separating. Let us see what you have to work with.
Martin, this neckline is not doing you any favors, darling. You really, you know what? You have just have a couple of minutes. Here's a needle and thread. Martin, make it work.
Now, John Evans, I want to say it's a bold choice what you're wearing here.
Yes, Heidi, I would say it's 7 or 8 bold choices, and I'm just not sure that they go together. I mean, I love the Dorsey shoe. I'm living for the galloons that you have just raining down from your shoulders, and I think this lace, you know, by itself would be wonderful, but altogether, I am asking myself, would anyone buy this in New York on 5th Avenue? And I'm not sure.
But Tim, doesn't it work together all together? Isn't that in itself a choice?
It's very Tom Ford if he had taken acid and read a book on maximalism, Heidi.
I think to seal it, John, let's add one more element.
Yes. Oh, you know what? You're so right. Here, I have this wonderful Frühstücksburg hat that will just go marvelously with this. Pull it all together. There's the silhouette. Now, John, go out on stage and make it work.
Perfect. Now, finally, what I'm the one I'm most excited about, Mr. Ian Anderson. I do have to say, the time of the bowler hat, it's last year. It's several years ago. I think we need to get rid of the bowler.
Oh, Ian, you're simply giving me a headache. Heidi, I don't know what I'm looking at here. Are these pants from J.C. Penney?
I think we have we're trying to go for a folk chic here, but I'm seeing a hint of a cod piece, I'm seeing jodhpurs, I'm seeing a trench coat with many holes in it, and they're not even stylish holes.
Cristobal Balenciaga is rolling in his grave right now.
I felt it in my soul. Now, Ian, what we need to work with here, we need to pick a single element and accentuate. Might I suggest the cod piece?
Oh yes, I love that. I'm thinking codpiece, I'm thinking shibori, I'm thinking traditional, I'm thinking stitch bonding. We need a tuck, we need a watau back, we need weave fibers playing counterpoint to each other. It's get Donatello Versace on the phone. Ian, I need you to drop 30 pounds immediately. And we only have a couple of minutes here. Ian, we're going to make it work. And most importantly, Ian, when you're wearing this garment, I need you to be thinking in your head, Tull to me is a proud member of the Feckless Momes Audio Network.